All right, so by now we have a logout view, a login view, registration view, and an activation view. So all of these work pretty well, and what we want to do now is make it just a little bit better so our view itself can actually handle like what's going on. So when they log in, it should redirect them somewhere. When they register after they're done registering, it might want to redirect them somewhere as well. And then also activation. Once they're done activating, should it redirect them or at least tell them, hey, now you should log in or something like that. So that's what we're going to do in this one. And then the other part, before we actually get started there, is we are going to update how this URL looks so it's a little bit smarter than the way it currently is, because this is going to be, well, it's kind of a mess in a way. So let's go ahead and first off, we're going to import from Django.core.URL resolvers import reverse. So reverse is going to be the one that we want, and reverse is going to be down here. We want to have this, let's get rid of this right here and put a slash, or we don't need the trailing slash actually. And in here, we're going to put our reverse call, and it's going to go into our activation complete, and then it's going to take the args of self activation key. So let's go ahead and find out what that reverse is. Okay, so this is the reverse. This is actually the URL that's going to go to the activation key, and we get the URL name here, which is activation view. So it's going to actually render this part out in our reverse model. So if we go back into our model, reverse, we put this in here, and args equals to a list, which is that. All right, and we want a comma there. Okay, so we've got our activation view, and now we want to actually update this. So before reverse, we're going to do our settings.default URL or default site URL, or you could just do simply site URL. So that means we need to actually set a site URL, and we also want to do %s here. So in our settings, which we already have imported up here, we need to set the site URL. So let's go into our settings, and we are going to do a few things here. If debug, so if debug site URL equals to, and this is where we'd want to put the local host, like what we had, or we could just put the local host or this one right here, same thing. And then else site URL would be where your URL is. So, you know, if I was doing cfestore.com or something like that, not to say that that's what it's going to be, but instead of else, we'll say if not debug. All right. So, and then even another option would be to put it above debug. There we go. Okay, so now that we've got this, our activate user email should be just slightly different. So I'm actually going to go ahead and test it out. So it should show us our activation view with the activation key, and it's going to work very well because we've got a URL as well as the reverse. So if we go into our view or our settings again, we don't actually need this trailing slash here because we have it right here. So if we did keep that trailing slash on settings, we would get rid of that there, but I'm going to keep it off. Okay, so now that we don't have the trailing slash, we've got our activation set up. Okay, let's go ahead and test it. I'm going to go into my users, and I'm going to delete this user ABC, and then accounts register. All right, so actually before I jump into actually testing it, let's go back into our view, and we're going to get this HTTP response redirect. And this is where we're going to do it. We're going to return HTTP response redirect, and this is where we might want to go after that registration, after registration is successful. So there's a lot of different places that you could go here to make sure that the registration happens in a way that kind of makes sense. right? So if they register, where should they be going? Should they be going to the home page? This is something you're going to want to think about. So we could redirect them. Another option is to render what we've got and just do like a success page or something along those lines. So for now, I'm just going to go with redirecting them to the home page. So then after they actually log in, it will redirect somehow. There's another thing I want to do is import the messages framework. So from django.contrib import messages. And what this does is it allows us to have session messages. So messages.success, and it's going to take in the request, and we'll say successfully registered. Please check your email for confirmation, or please confirm your email, rather. Please confirm your email before proceed. Please check your email now. Okay. All right, so now we've got this messages. So after they register, we've got a message that it'll show them. So let's actually go in. I deleted that other user, so let's go and log out. Accounts register and ABC. Coding for entrepreneurs, 123, 123, join. Oops, spelled success wrong. I successfully incorrectly spelled success. All right, so I already registered that user, so I'm going to try it one more time. So we have that session message. Delete ABC. Getting a lot of registration emails here. Join. And notice it says, do you want to save your password? You can say yes. And then also another thing that would be to note is, where'd that message go? Well, if we go to admin, we see successfully registered. Please confirm your email now. So what that means is we can actually use this messages framework in many other places. So I'm going to copy that and put it into our login view. Successfully logged in. Welcome back. And then we can also do the redirect there. And then logged out, successfully logged out. And maybe the redirect should go not instead of to the home page, but we should send them to the login page, like have them log in. Successfully logged out. Feel free to log in again. All right, so that's where the logout view. Now we want it to redirect to that login view. So in our URLs, we'll go to the login view, which is auth login. And we have to import reverse, but first I'm just going to use %s and then %reverse auth login. So from django.core.url resolvers, import reverse. All right, so that means that when we log out, it's going to take us back into login, and then when we log in, it's going to take us home, and then registration is also going to take us home, but it'll have this message. Activation is one other thing that perhaps we want. Instead of saying just this page method, page message, that is, we could say an actual Django message, and underneath the saved, successfully confirmed. Something like that. And we can also do this down here. Already confirmed. Right, and so on. So successfully confirmed. Please log in. And actually, the error, we might want to say an error instead of HTTP 404. There was an error with your request. And now, instead of raising HTTP 404, we might redirect them to the home page. Because why raise a HTTP 404 when we can, have an opportunity to redirect them somewhere else, like a page that just makes more sense, like a sales page. Okay, so now we've got all that. We've got these messages set up. We will actually implement these messages into our templates later, but we'll see that later. So if you have any questions on this so far, let me know. Otherwise, the last thing I want to do is I'm going to just go through the whole thing all over again. Go to users. I'm going to delete this user, log out, and then do accounts, register, ABC, coding for entrepreneurs, 123, 123, join. Looks like I already did it. I pressed enter, so that's probably why. So let's actually check the, and we have some errors here. Well, that's because of how we actually saved everything. So let's go ahead and take a look at our models. We can get rid of this one, but that still leaves 2 of them. So let's see our settings. So settings is still doesn't have that trailing slash. So perhaps it had something to do with settings, but let's just try and actually authenticate one more time and see if now it's going to work a little bit better. But there's 3 slashes there when there should only be 1. So let's create that user all over again. And notice that message came through. Users, delete, yes, log out, accounts, register, ABC, coding for entrepreneurs, 123, 123, join. And as it loads, it takes us to another place. That's perfect. So grabbing that other email. And it looks like it's still doing it. Let's click on it and see. Now we still got that error coming through here. So what I'm going to do now is actually test it with a different domain. Let's just see if we get rid of this domain and just call it I'm going to just call it codingforentrepreneurs.com and see if that will work. If that works, then we can assume that our login will actually work correctly. So if I go into users, I'm going to delete that user again. Log out, accounts, register, ABC, coding for entrepreneurs, 123, 123, join, and joined. Checking the email, and this time it worked. Okay, so the trailing slash went away, and notice that our reverse actually added that slash. It's a mental error that I made, that the reverse will definitely add that trailing slash there. But this is also a little bit of a smarter URL. For some reason, our local host, so when we had it on local host, we had it was actually appending another slash here, which doesn't make any sense. So for now, I'm just going to get rid of if debug and just leave CFE store, because that's essentially where we would be activating. And then from here on out, to test it, you could just copy the last part of the email and go in here into localhost, and then confirmation successful, welcome, we can log in, and it redirects us back. We are logged in, log out, redirects us back to log in. Perfect. So if you have any questions on this, let me know. Otherwise, let's keep going.